when somebody has experienced an injustice, often they get famous, I put in like air quotes, they get famous overnight.
Right.
And suddenly they get people who are pulling at them from a million different directions. And
Right.
then someone, it could be me or you or somebody else, says, well, I'm definitely going to help this person. I see it. I'm bothered by it. I'm going to chip in and help.
Mm-hmm.
And so I saw when some people, when the owners of this particular restaurant in Atlanta were mistreating this young black family that was in the spot, I
Right.
shared the video and I was as pissed and frustrated as everybody else.
Right.
I love Atlanta, and people who love and know Atlanta were frustrated. People who love black people saw it and were frustrated.
Mm-hmm.
And you then said, listen, I'm going to see what I can do to help. Now,
See, now
me,
wait a minute. Now,
yeah,
mind you, let's just walk through this.
yeah, let's do it.
Not even that I said I was going to see what I could do to help. I reposted what I saw my sister EJ post, and it
Uh-huh.
said, we're going to have to shut Umi down like we did Houston's.
Right.
EJ and I, we were shoulder to shoulder in
Yep.
the Houston's demonstration, and we were
I remember.
successful. Uh, and I said, okay, well, if EJ's in, I'm in. And I
Right.
posted it, right? After I posted it, I began getting calls immediately.
Yeah.
Immediately, calls began coming to me. I didn't have to pick up the phone and call anybody.
Right.
Calls began coming to me. And immediately it was the mayor called me,
Mm.
Shaka, who's Luda's management,
Yep.
he called me. My DJ MLK called me. You know, I immediately called EJ. I said, hey, what's going on? Have you already spoken to these people? Because everybody who called me, oh, and Ryan Cameron.
Mm.
Ryan Cameron called me. Okay, so I said, EJ, have you spoken to these people? Because everyone who called me said that the owner is he's extremely sorry and he wants to meet right now, and he
Mm.
wants us to figure out or help him figure out how he can rectify his wrongdoings.
Right.
Which is, you know, this as a demonstrator, as an organizer, that's, we usually have to march in the streets before we make it to that
Yeah,
point.
that's normally the end result. So they normally have to be, but see, it it built up on, and see, some of it is we've all learned, and I think he's probably witnessed what happens as well. And I think
Mm-hmm.
his first thought was, yeah, I need to come to the table with my hat in my hand
Right,
right away.
right.
And so people are coming to that conclusion a lot faster than they used to.
Mm.
And even
Which
in
is
just a year.
progress that most people don't really recognize.
Right, right.
Those of us who we had to fight to get it to this place, to
Yeah,
where now all we got to do is post,
yeah.
and they come calling. To me, that is progress.
Yeah, I mean, and so because he started seeing right away that people were posting on his Google reviews and his Yelp reviews, and even Yelp now has a new policy that if enough customers say this is a racist establishment, Yelp
Mm,
even has a new label they'll place on there to say we have received credible complaints. And
mm.
so when he started seeing the pushback from you, from everyday people, when he started getting the phone calls and he started seeing those Yelp reviews and Google reviews,
Right.
smartly, right away, he said, okay, how can I fix this? But then
And
it got weird.
now let me ask you this: after you have someone coming saying, "Listen, I need to know what I can do to make it right.
Yeah.
I feel that I failed as a businessman and I failed as a human.
Mm.
What is it that I can do? Will you please sit down with me?" At that point, what is it that a person in our position is expected to do?
Well, here's the thing. That's about as much as you can ask from somebody, and again, it also gets to, you approach that, you're also an entrepreneur, and you understand, yeah, that's about all we can get out of somebody unless we just want to destroy someone's business without ever giving them an opportunity to make it right.
Which then makes us
Yeah,
the
which
oppressor in a
yeah,
way.
then puts us in, we've now reversed roles.
Right.
And so if somebody is sincere and earnestly says, I messed up. And now we could go to the meeting and come out and say, listen, we don't believe him. The meeting was bad,
Right.
any of those types of things. But at that point, if somebody's not just saying, I want to meet, but they're saying, show me how to make this right, that's about the best we can get.
I mean, that is the most favorable outcome as anyone could expect. So I call EJ and tell her, hey, he wants to meet, and she says, okay, cool, let's meet. I say, fine, I'm gonna have him come to the Trap Music Museum, say around 5:36. She said, okay, I could be there. EJ, by the way, 9 months pregnant.
Yeah.
9 months pregnant.
Full-term pregnancy at that
Gets
point.
out of her bed, comes out of her house in COVID times to deal with this matter. Her also, and another activist by the name of Queen, who also joined us. So we go there, and
she's good people too. Like,
absolutely.
I trust both of them as much
They
as I
solid.
trust anybody. Yeah.
I mean, in the world of activism, in the world of demonstrations and organizing, they are genuine and solid as far as my eyes have been able to
Yeah,
see.
particularly they're on the ground. They're on the ground in
Boots on the
Atlanta.
ground,
Yep.
consistent,
Yep.
doing the work day in and day out, whether the cameras are on or off. So those are the people I called. I didn't go hold the meeting on my own. I called the people who I felt like I could align myself with and who I could trust to watch everything I might not see. So we go and we sit and we meet. And of course he said, yeah, man, I'm sorry. And we were just, my thing was, hey, listen, you in Atlanta, this culture, we run this city, period. Don't nothing move or shake without our culture. We are a part of the economy. We are part of the infrastructure. We are tethered to this society here. So you can't own, operate, or run no business here, and you trying to alienate and ostracize our culture. Can't happen, right? He says, I understand, I get it. I'm willing to immediately remove whatever rules, whatever policies were in place, whatever that is, y'all let me know how I can, I said, all right, cool. And then he said, I'm getting death threats. He said, people are threatening to kill me. The police told me it's not safe for me to be at my home. Can we please just let everybody know that, that we are talking? So now me as a man, we're not looking for violence. We don't want blood in the streets. That's not, what I'm saying? That kind of line has not been crossed.
But see, it gets back to this kind of core idea of our conversation. You are somebody that's also experienced violence in the worst ways, where you've lost loved ones and friends and others. Sure. And when you've experienced this, you're not so quick to talk about it on Instagram as a thread, or people who, by and large, people who are posting threats and making them, and they've never actually been on the other side of that, to understand that these are things you don't just throw around. And this is a trend of a lot of people.
You would think that, but we'll get to the other side of that later on. But you're right. So, I missed the part. Before we took the meeting, I asked EJ, have you spoke to the couple? Have you spoke to the young lady and the young gentleman that had the incident? She said, no, I DM'd them, waiting for their numbers. Soon as they hit me back, I'll call them. So they hadn't hit her back by the time we had the meeting. So while we're in the meeting, we do the video and not letting them off the hook, telling him, hey man, you ain't gonna be able to operate your business like this. He, in return, said, I apologize, I understand. We're gonna work on it, whatever we gotta do to make it right. Which means the conversation is not over. We just got it to a place where he said, tell me what you want.
Yeah.
Right? And after that video, more calls. How could you? You didn't talk to us. You didn't talk to the people. Whoa, bro. What are you talking about? We're talking right now. We're in the midst of the discussion. This is the time. Yeah. So by the time I make it back to my studio, which is probably about 3 minutes away from the museum, EJ calls me and say, listen, the couples called now and they're putting up a video and they're da-da-da-da. I say, man, call them on three-way. Yeah. So she calls me, connects them, and I say, listen, what would you like to see happen? I don't know, man. I just can't believe you did. I did. What are you talking about, bro? You went and talked without talking to us, and bro, I'm talking to you now. It
Yeah.
wasn't nothing to talk about before I had the conversation. Now
Yeah.
that I know where he stands, I could come back to you, see where you stand, what you would like to happen, and we can all come to the table together for progression.
Well, the tricky part is this. You are somebody when people even think of Atlanta, you are somebody that immediately comes to mind. Like you as a person, your identity and name is so interconnected with the city, and that's how you built it. Like Atlanta is not just your home, it's your headquarters for your business. I mean,
Right,
it's what you. And so there's this tricky part where as a leader in the city, not just as an organizer but as an entrepreneur and a voice and as a spokesperson for the city, you feel a burden to intervene when something goes wrong.
right.
You feel like I have to stand up and intervene here because so much of who you are is interconnected to the city. But I've had moments where I spoke out against an injustice
Mm-hmm,
that someone else asked me to speak out on,
mm-hmm.
and then later a family might say, "Well, we didn't ask you to say that."
Mm.
And I have kind of pivoted and changed some of how I approach it now, moving forward.
As
Generally,
as well as I.
yeah, and so I'm going to still speak out, but now if I'm going to actually take my time and go to a meeting and stuff like you did, if I don't see that the family is involved or wants me involved, I'll just, I might post something about it and say, let's support this family. But now my new policy is, nah, if the family is not wrapped up in it, I'm just not going to do it.
But see,
And
this is the thing, right? Because the family has to have genuine intentions,
true, true.
and they have to, and they have to have ambitions of
Yeah,
progressing. You can't want to stay stagnant, because when we finally got the gentleman and the young lady here,
yeah.
we said, okay, what would you like to see happen? What do you
Mhm.
want?
Right.
And I think she said, well, they can buy us that building, baby. I say, well,
I,
what
well,
what
what
do
I
you
was,
want to see happen for the people, for the
yeah.
multitudes of people that are of our culture, of our generation, that go into this restaurant?
Mm,
How would you like to affect their experience?
right.
And then it was like, well, we asked them something about opening up so the less fortunate who can't afford to come in there could come in there and sit down. I say, that's great. Then they say, well, no, he done already said he'll do that. I don't want. I said, well, ain't that the point?
Mm.
To ask him to do things, to get him to agree, and to get things done so we can move forward.
Man,
But I feel like they saw more value in the conflict,
mm.
because
Well,
they said, well, maybe we should just shut it down, because all he gonna do is open back up and make money. Like,
mm.
well, yeah, that's kind of the point.
Well, there's this phrase that I have that has been so heavy on my mind. And I shared it with my staff at Grassroots Law Project. I think about it all the time. The phrase is, you don't know what you don't know.
Mm,
And a lot of times, so as you tell me the story about this couple, what happened to them was wrong. It was
it
horrible.
was.
And when you and I and other people saw it, we were pissed
Sure.
and wanted to help.
But not just pissed for them, though.
Oh, I understand. Like,
We're
no, it's like,
pissed for the multitudes,
and
the
because
collective.
the truth is it probably had happened there before,
Mm-hmm.
and somebody just didn't get a viral video and all so if it's happened once, it's happened before.
Sure. I got calls saying that these guys, that they're not sincere in their, in their efforts and their word, and basically telling me that they can't be trusted.
Well,
Those
my
are the
thing
calls
is,
that I got
well,
after the
the
video.
couple when people experience that type of injustice, they then and so I see them with kind of sympathetic eyes, because what I really think is they didn't ask for they didn't ask for what happened to them to happen, and then they really get overwhelmed by, because here's the thing, I've trended on social media 100 times, you've trended on social, like there have been days in my life, and the same is true of you, where I have been the most talked about person in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And so I know what that feels like.
Yeah.
And I can handle it. And at this point, I can ride it out and go through
Right.
it.
I call it sitting in the fire.
Yeah. So I can sit in the fire because I've been through it. And like you, even before I was famous, I was going through the fire. And
Right.
so I can handle the pressure. But that couple and a lot of people who experience injustice, man, they get overwhelmed by that fire and that attention.
Mm-hmm.
And I have gotten to the point where I expect there to be a certain level of conflict and weirdness. And I see it with sympathetic eyes because I think normally what's happening is they're just overwhelmed.
Okay.
And they're overwhelmed by all the people in their ears.
Right.
And what happens is lawyers come out of the woodwork saying,
Right.
don't do this, this, or this. People, family is pulling on them saying, do this, don't do that. And so all of a sudden, you get somebody at the table and they don't know what they don't know. They don't
Right.
know what's right. They don't know what's best.
Okay.
And
I
it's,
appreciate you for
yeah.
this insight because these are things that I need to hear.
But
You
see,
know.
that's what also has caused me to not say, fuck it, I'm out. I'm not doing this stuff anymore,
Yeah.
because the people we're trying to help often are just overwhelmed by the moment. And what they're really overwhelmed by is, because here's the thing. You already know what it's like to have tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions of people talking about you, tagging you. We've already been through that. But if you removed all that from your life and it happens for you for the
The very
first time,
first time. Yeah.
oh man, those people, you
It's a
just
lot.
got to give them a pass. You got to
It's a
give them
lot.
a pass.
Well, I don't. I try not to be overly critical
Oh,
of them. I tried to approach it from that standpoint. Up until uh, in the meeting, I offered the opportunity. I said, well, you know what? I posted a video with them, letting them speak their piece. I
yeah.
want to offer you the same opportunity, extend you the same courtesy. And the gentleman said, man, I don't even know what to say. We could take a picture, but I wouldn't even know what to say. I say, and he said it with such contempt, you know what I mean? That I just was like,
Who
you know
knows?
what, bro? All right, you
Who
got it.
knows?
Cool.
Yeah.
So he leaves
Yeah.
and I go on about my business. And
Yeah.
then about 30, 40 minutes later, folk hit me. I believe it was Yellow Beezy, if I ain't mistaken. My
Okay.
partner Yellow Beezy, man, from Dallas. He hit me. He say, see, King, that's why I just mind my business. I'm like, what you talking about? He was like, oh, you ain't seen the video? I'm like, nah, what video? Then just this show. The dude is up here on a video talking about, how disappointed he was in me. When I just offered you an opportunity to say your thing, and you said you wouldn't know what to say. You figured it out on the ride home, though.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's when I felt attacked at that point. Like,
Well,
bro,
all I can ask you as your brother and as your peer is let that situation be what it is and know that out of every 100 people you help, you might get one or two that are like that, but you got to focus on the other 98 that aren't. And you could probably think right now of so many families that you fought for, stood for. I can tell you, there's so many families that I've worked with that just when they saw you mention their case or say their name, because some of these families, they're never going to get justice. And just to know that the people that they love and admire see them and care, man, it's like medicine to some of these families, because
I'm happy
sometimes
to do that.
the police won't meet with them, the prosecutors won't meet with them, but when they see that somebody they love and have known cares and sees
Right.
what they're going through, it matters. And so every blue moon, it's going to get weird,
Yeah.
but you can't bail, because the weird moments, they do sit with you. But you gotta,
That shit sting, man.
it does
That
sting.
shit sting, bro. I mean, I don't make a dime off this shit. Then I see motherfuckers in my comments. Yeah, what Biden and them paying you?
Oh,
Are you
right.
crazy?
Well, listen, I get this
Democrats don't pay anybody anything. What the
right.
fuck are
Like
you talking about?
I did almost 50 events for Bernie Sanders. I traveled
Right,
all over the country for Bernie. Never made a dime. I did all that on my own money. I paid for my own travel.
right.
And I kept seeing people all the time saying, "What's this man paying you to do this?" Like,
Mm,
no, no, no. This is what I believe in. This is what I'm
mm,
trying to do.
right,
Same thing. It's like if I have a critique of Bernie or of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, it's like nobody's paying me to have
right.
this critique. I'm thinking for myself.
Independent thinking is just so like it's so out of the norm to some
Yeah,
people
it
that
is.
they think that every message that comes out of our mouths has to be, kind of an agenda, a paid agenda.